Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Spambrah, and today we're coming at you a new game called Endzone, A World Apart. It's an early access game at the moment that is a survival, build a village, strategy sort of game. So the storyline at the moment is that all of nuclear explosions happened all over the world. It was terrible, it was bad. And the last remaining surviving humans went underground for about 150 years, and they've decided to come and surface and try and restart as better people. There is a tutorial. I highly recommend if you are brand new to the tutorial, please do play it. It is really basic in what things are, what buildings are and what they do, and how they influence the survivability of your people. So I highly do recommend that you go ahead and play the tutorial. It is really short. This game's all about timing. You really need to smash out, getting certain buildings out on the board map as soon as you possibly can. And even placement actually affects your survivability. And these are some of the things that I'll go through with you today. But I won't do the tutorial. That's up to you guys to go through and have a look. Let's get straight into it. We'll just generate a new game. We'll leave everything as is, default, no changes at all with starting conditions. So we'll roll a couple of times. Wow, damn. I missed it. God, we're gonna go back. We're gonna name our town Misery. That was rolled. That was totally rolled. So standard starting is that you get a medium amount of settlers, which I think is 10 or 12, and 3 children, I think, off the top of my head. But we'll find out. We'll find out in a minute. They all start with metal tools, which are the highest grade tool to date at the moment for the early access, and same with the activated carbon mask, I believe is the... no, it's not. Beg your pardon, because the next one is the radiation suit. So this is, you get the good tools and you get the medium tier protective clothing. Alright, let's do this. Let's start and save these people. This is a very important tip. This is trying to tell you how to win this at this game. It is, I swear. Basic needs come first and foremost. We have to build up water and food supply, and then... Honestly, this is like the best tip that the game gives you ever to date about it. So we start with our bunch of villagers waiting to do things. You've got your little camper van where all the supplies are currently held. I don't know why you can't come out of like a bunker, but that's okay. We can see around the edge of the board, like this, let's just start the game. Let me really quickly go through what is on your HUD, what you get on the map, like on your actual board state. So you've got your basic settings up here. This gives you tips about what each and everything does, which is great. If you want to read more about everything, about how to help and survive in the game. The game log shows you things like what was used, what was not used, who's died, what tools are used, that sort of thing. Notifications come across when there's going to be droughts, when you're low on water or food, for example, when people don't have homes, people don't have protective clothing, people are suffering from extreme radiation. So this is where all those sort of notifications will pop up. And then finally, tasks. So occasionally your village will propose tasks to you to complete, things like collecting a certain amount of wood in a certain amount of time, or each one's different depending on how hard the task is. You get more time for harder tasks, such as population, because it takes a while to get your pop-up. And then those collection quests, usually about 20 minutes to get completed. Along the top here, we've got resources. So we've got water, food, so these are your 2 basic needs. And then we've got these resources that get consumed in terms of buildings consume it, or your villagers use it to build things like tools and protective clothing. So first off, we've got wood. Basically, there's wood all over the map. If I move around, you can see wood trees everywhere. So villagers will cut down wood. This is how much wood you have in your inventory. Same with scrap. These piles along the map everywhere, this is all scrap. Wants to stay. There we go, 150. So this greenhouse ruin is worth 150 scrap. This greenhouse ruin is also worth 150 scrap. But it's an interesting one, and apparently we can build an expedition station, which is not yet in the game. So this is still part of the stuff that needs to get built into the game by the developers. So unfortunately, it's not something I can discuss with you today. Moving along, we've got tools. So tools are used to increase your productivity of your settlers. Radiation suits are used to protect your settlers from the radiation that's all over the world, the fallout that has spread throughout the world. Medication, so if there's herbs all over the map, this is it here. So this little weird bush, this can be herbs or it can be gathering food. It depends. It can be both. So medication is important to keep your people healthy. Then we have cloth. So cloth is found by recycling scrap and is used to make a couple of buildings, and it's also used to make protective clothing. Well, next thing along we have metal, which is also recycled material from scrap. It's used to make buildings, and it's used to make tools as well. This one here. Then we have plastic, which is used in buildings, electronics, which is also used in buildings, and charcoal, which is used in protective clothing and certain buildings. We've got the HUD map up the top right, so you can actually see and scroll around where you are on the map, what's nearby, what lakes are nearby, so it's all shown here. The green is forest or just general grass. The yellowish dots is scrap. The blue is lakes. And the grey is mountains in the region. And the orange is your village at the moment. Or any buildings that you have placed down. This is your map rotation, so I can hold in the mouse wheel button and move left and right to rotate around. You can also use Q and E on your keyboard to rotate. You can use the scroll wheel to move up and down, right mouse and drag to move around the map quickly. Alternatively, you can use WASD or your up-down arrow keys to move around the map. Now down to the bottom left, statistics. So at the moment, this just shows you what you have. They haven't built graphs yet, so you can't actually pick something and show how much you're consuming over time to see whether or not you need, if you're making food, or if you're losing food, or if you're making resources, or if you're losing resources. So this is yet to come. Again, this is an alpha game. It shows that we have all seeds at the moment. So I do wonder if trading is going to become a thing maybe in the future, and that you have to trade things to get more seeds in the future. Could be a thing, I don't know, but we will see. Next we've got resources. So this is our total resources, and it at least kind of shows you how much you have, how much you've produced, and how much has been consumed. You can have a basic understanding of, kind of like this can be your graph. This can be your, your base point of understanding if you need to put more fields down, or if you need to put more water supply towers down, or, to get more water. You can flick through seasons, so you can sort of understand and see what's going on. At the moment, we don't have any history because this is a brand new game. Next along is production limits. So as you produce things, you can say, hey, I want a maximum of this. So at the moment, we can see water is set to 10,000, and we can see we've got 600 in capacity at the moment. Food is set to 3,000, and we have 600 in capacity or in stock at the moment. So you can set hard limits, which is really good. My recommendation is for things like metal, plastic, electronics, and cloth, drop them all down to 20 in the beginning, mainly because you aren't using these resources so much so that you need 100 of them. The other thing is that it takes a really long time to recycle these products, to turn scrap into one of these products. We can go through that later once we actually get into recycling. But for now, I'll go through it, but my recommendation is drop them down to 20 when you start the game. I'm going to leave it for now because I haven't got a recycler. I'm not too worried about changing it. I'll change it later. Next, we have the Professionals tab. I often will leave this tab open entirely during my games. I always want to leave this tab open. It shows me how many people I have that don't have jobs, and it shows me all the jobs that are potentially available. So currently we have no jobs because we're not building anything at the moment. And this will change as we start building, and I'll go into people management and why I manage people in a certain way that I do. And finally, we have buildings. So buildings are broken down into different types of buildings. So you've got all your water buildings in one tab, all your food buildings in another tab, Resources, i.e. things like wood, scrap, cloth, metal, all those things, they're actually in their own tab. Housing, community, logistics, we can go through all this in a second. Finally, we've got this map down the bottom, and this is actually quite important to keep your eye on, particularly the weather section. And the reason is because soil moisture is important to manage for your on-the-ground crops that obviously require moisture. Radiation is important to keep tabs on as more and more radiated rain rains on the ground and drops radiation on the ground. The radiation will increase over time, and you need people to dispose of the radiation and dig it up. This one here shows you the current weather. So my current weather in my starting game is that there's raining and it's sunny. It's daytime, and we're at season 1. And you can see that this number 2, number 3, number 4. So these are the seasons, and these are marked as years. Actually, it's kind of like years. As your seasons go through, your people will age, and they die after a certain amount of seasons as well. So we got game speed, so we can change the speed of the game. I often sit on 2 speed, just so I'm not going too fast and I miss things, but it's not game-breakingly slow, and I'm going to pull my hair out. Cool! That is the menus in a nutshell, essentially. So my pro tip at the moment, as you're moving things around, my recommendation is usually have the professionals tab open at all times. Keep an eye on the rain every now and again, making sure that you're not going to run, when the drought is going to come. Be prepared for it, and also keep an eye on this tab up the top here. We don't want to run out of food and water. That is the biggest issue. Running out of food and water, real bad. So my game started. I've got it on pause at the moment. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place a bunch of buildings. And the first building I'm going to place, and this is recommended in the tutorial, the first building I'm going to place is the cistern. The cistern stores water, and it requires water collection areas or other buildings for you to collect water to place into the cistern. So this is just water storage. So my recommendation, actually before you place the cistern, is build the jetty, because it's the only thing that you can build in straight away in the game that doesn't require plastic, for example, like the rainwater does. The well, you could build the well, but it produces water slowly, whereas you've got water apparent right here, right now. I'm going to try and place this jetty in a reasonable enough location that everything else it's really close to some space that I can build houses around. Actually, I think I might drop it down here. I'm going to put my jetty there, and if you guys can notice, there's green. So that's the entrance for the building. That is important, and especially when it comes to water. So my early game strategy at the moment is to place the entrances for the jetty and the cistern right up against each other. The reason for this is that you don't want your people to walk very far to collect water. The biggest killer is distance traveled for your workers and how long it actually takes them to travel. The reason why there is the red hammer in the circle is because we have no one to actually build it at the moment. So I like to assign 4 builders straight away, because I want these 2 buildings built real damn fast, as soon as possible can. The next thing I also want to do before I even start the game is build some food tiles. I like to do, so your base tile is an 11 by 11, so I like to do the same size. To even start sowing seeds, when you left click on it, you actually have to choose what seed you want to sow. And yes, there is hemp in this game. Don't pick it straight away. The fastest growing plant is the bell pepper, aka capsicum. I recommend you grow the bell pepper because it takes 0.19 seasons, gives you 242 food, which is real fast food essentially, which is what we want for our early game. We can change this seed later on when we need to start cycling crops and having a lot of different types of crops to keep our people healthy. So before I place too many more crops down, I'm going to place the scrap yard. So the scrap yard is a building that your workers will go around and they'll collect the scrap in the surrounding area. So we're going to leave it there for now in terms of things that we put down straight away, mainly because I want to place some houses. So my recommendation with house placement, spread out. You've got a massive map to spread out on, right? I recommend you place your houses as close to the work sites that the people are going to be working at, not up against your camper van. Don't stress about shoving everything right next to your camper van. It's not an issue. The real issue is distance traveling for your people. You want to minimize that. I'm going to put 2 houses here. The reason is because the cistern only takes 5 people once it is built, so 2 houses there is sufficient for the early game. Secondly, we have a whole heap of farms here, so we're going to need a few of the cabins over this side. You can click on the settings cog to pause the building. So this means that these buildings won't be built, which is great, because we have limited resources. I don't want the villagers, the settlers, to smash all these other buildings, and then it takes too much time to collect scrap and blah blah blah. So, hot tip number 2, prioritize your buildings, pause them. I want my cistern built first, so I need to pause everything else. So right now, cistern built, houses are placed down as close as possible to their work sites. Those are the greatest tips that I can give you thus far. Let's start the game. Let's put it. Alright, straight off the bat, I'm going to assign 3 water carriers, because 3 water carriers seems to be the great amount to sustain 10 adults and 5 children in the early game and actually have growth of water. I'm now going to unpause these 2 cabins because I want the water carriers to live in these 2 cabins over here. Quite important. My other final thing actually to say is that you've got these tasks, so you don't have to build, like straight away in the game, you don't actually have to build the special buildings, and I highly recommend that you don't, that you use the gather resources flag. So it highlights what it's going to collect. It's showing me it's going to collect 80 wood, 56 scrap, 30 medicinal plants, and 45 food in the area, i.e. mushrooms and berries and that stuff. Alright, we'll just go back to it and play the game. So we can see our water builders and our builder decided to move into this house, as did our other 2 water carrier people, which is great. It means they don't have to walk too far. Right, so my scrapyard is now built, which is awesome. What we can do is, at the moment, this white ring is the collection zone. So you can actually go change field of work, and you can move the circle around to tell your people to collect scrap. My recommendation actually is to try and keep it nice and tight. I only want them to collect from places they don't have to walk super far to. It seems to be a good build. Build your houses close to where your people are going to work. Place resource buildings close by, so then that way they don't have to travel far as well. These are sort of the tips that I recommend that you follow. Hopefully this has been helpful. I'd love to see more feature updates about this game. At the moment, this game is just really one mass collection game and sustain and increase, essentially. So there's not much to the game per se. There are other games who have done this concept before, and it does have a long way to go. That being said, it is in early access. It's still being developed as we speak. Looking forward to seeing what they have in the future and seeing what they release in the future. So, as always, if you like this video, please do like, subscribe, and comment down below to say if you want any other types of videos. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers!